This is going to be part 2 of the Victorian Stairwell makeover videos that I'm doing. This video is going to be about the Dado rail, and so that will include us adding it and prepping it and painting it, how we kind of weatherproofed it and things like that. This is the wood that we're going to use for the mouldings on the door, down at the bottom. So it's nice and thick. And we also thought we could use this as a dado rail. I don't know if it's a very good illustration of it, but yeah, I thought we'd do a dado rail in here. And then I kind of fancy tiling this bit and then painting up here. But, oh Jesus, this is so long. Right. So yeah, I don't know if you can see here, there's a line on the wall. And that carries all the way round. So I think there was either a paint line there. I think there was this kind of brown varnish stuff up to about here to form kind of like a dado, or the Americans call that wainscoting. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. We added a dado rail. You can see a little bit of it up there, and I'll flip the camera and I'll show you some of that as well. Okay, so this is the dado rail. It's wood, it's pieces that we picked up in B&Q. He's just gone round the corners and mitered, you know, all the edges and the joins. And it goes round the window. And as you can see, it goes round the whole way. And it comes up here and goes round our front door. We thought that that would make the wall more interesting. It would break up the sheer height of it, because quite often you see with the Victorian corridor they'll have a tile going up halfway and then the rest will be a gloss paint. We would have loved to have had tiles. That was something we actually really did research to see if it was possible at all. Another issue was that the tile would have to have been very thin to fit on the wall, because our skirting board is quite thin. But anyway, yeah, we're going to just paint it instead and have the bottom half maybe a different colour, or perhaps even stencil some details on it. Once it's painted, it'll be very well protected, because obviously since it's wood, that would be a concern if we weren't going to address the mould, but we're going to use very strong anti-mould products. And that'll have a very thick coating of paint and primer. You name it. It was attached initially with no more nails glue, and then Sam went back in with a brad nail pusher and just pushed little brad nails in all the way down the rail. Because it had been stuck to the wall and the walls are very old, they're all quite wavy, there's no straight walls at all. The gap between the wood of the dado rail where it met the wall, that would keep changing as you go down. So we needed to fill that gap. We filled the gap almost to the top with the Toupret, and then the last pass we used resin, and resin is quite waterproof as well. The brand was maybe Gorilla, I'll double check. Any of the corners or the little joins in the dado rail along the top where it meets the wall, they've all been resined.
We're going to do some resin on these, fill these gaps with some epoxy resin just to make sure that they're all not going to pop off. Because some of these joints, I mitered them instead of scraped them. I only found out later that you should scrape these so that they don't move so much. There's not as much of a gap. But we're just going to put, like we've done here, fill that with some clear resin to give it a bit of durability, and then just sand it back. Still needs a bit of finessing to get the moulding right.
Rail was primed. It's an oil-based primer that we use, and on top of that it was a few coats of Crown Trade Gloss, and it's an oil-based one, almost like a glassy kind of shine at the end, and it's really hard and really durable, and it's perfect for this kind of application. There's a massive time jump here between the last video clip and then the next one, and that is just because we had a lot of different delays which were kind of out of our control. I'll go into in a different video because it's more relevant to that topic. Because we had some delays, I think a little bit of the motivation to film had gone for me at that stage. It was cold as well. The paint isn't meant to be used at a certain temperature. The reason I'm using such a small brush is partly for precision so that I can get a really nice line when I'm cutting in, but it's also because it's one of those paints that you have to clean it with turps and white spirit. If you don't clean them perfectly and right away, the brushes get all gummed up and you kind of just got to chuck them away. This is what the Dado rail looks like now. It's had maybe 2 or 3 coats of paint. I'll show you some of the corners and joins that I think are quite nice. I think Sam did a really good job on these corners. Sometimes when you have a tricky corner like that, at first you think, oh no, it's going to be so difficult to get that right. But once it's done, you feel almost glad that you've got a little section like that. A little bit dark down this section, but I'll just show you. Yeah, Sam cut a little piece, like a return piece, to put on the end there just to finish it off. And then that way it isn't jutting into the door and the door can still open. Same with here, we left that bit bare just because when the door opens there's not a huge amount of clearance, and I also thought you don't want that poking your eye out as you're coming in. There's the end piece on there as well. Oh, it's had a little scuff. Well, I'll have to paint that back, won't I? So yeah, a little bit more to do to finish the project, but we're waiting until the spring now. Thanks so much for watching. I'll have another video out soon.